Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the reliability of the all-new Ram 1500. We're going to be basically digging into it and figuring out if this is a truck that you should purchase for the long term. First and foremost, so a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Dodge Ram here in Provo, Utah for giving me some time with this used Ram 1500. If you're in the market for a Dodge, Ram, Jeep, or Chrysler, check out the inventory in the description down below. And then as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below as well. Let's get right into the video. Now we're going to start things off by talking about the powertrain of this truck. So there's a bunch of different powertrain options. This particular one has the 5.7 Hemi with the e-torque system. You can also get this without the e-torque system. You can also get a V6, and there is a 3-liter V6 EcoDiesel. Now the EcoDiesel is going to have its own dedicated video because, yeah, just a completely different powertrain. Now the 3.6-liter V6 is actually very reliable, but it's not that common, and so, yeah, not really going to focus on that too much. Now the 5.7 Hemi on the other hand, very common, and it's actually very reliable. There have been some cases of lifter issues with the trucks, but it's extremely rare, and I don't really think that it's an issue at this point because, again, it's affected so few trucks that it's just like a freak accident type deal at this point. Now the 5.7 Hemi e-torque has also been shown to be extremely reliable with this generation as well. There just hasn't really been all that much happening with these trucks. The Ram trucks have been pretty boring with their, change to the 5th generation, and so yeah, I wish I had more to talk about from an engine perspective, but I don't. Now something that's kind of interesting is if we go into the transmission side of things, Dodge has been known for a long time to not be the best from a transmission perspective, but guess what? With the new 8-speed automatic they've been using for quite a long time at this point, since like what, 2013, 2014, they haven't had transmission issues with the trucks either. That 8-speed automatic is super reliable, super robust, and even when it's in like circumstances that are not great, where people are driving the trucks without any transmission fluid, the transmissions are still somehow surviving. I don't understand it, but anyways, we live in a world now where you can buy a, well, it's now a Ram brand, but a Dodge Ram truck, and you're not going to have transmission issues, and the engine is basically, I mean, we can't truly call it bulletproof because no engine's really bulletproof, but I mean, it's at that point, right? Now, I picked out this particular truck because, well, it's pre-owned and it's a Laramie package, which I feel like is pretty popular within Ram's lineup. And also, I do want to mention before we dive into the rest of the issues, I'm not going to be talking about issues that affect the classic edition of the new Ram 1500 because it's a completely different truck from the 5th generation. And so again, that gets its own dedicated video. And I don't think they have any classic... Yeah, I don't think they have any classic editions here, so I can't really show you guys what it looks like, but basically it looks like the old body style Ram 1500, like that bighorn right there. Anyways, other exterior issues that could potentially pop up on the truck, and again, this is where things get kind of boring. There hasn't really been anything. There hasn't been any like malfunctions with the lighting that they have. They have this new cool LED lighting situation on like the Laramie, for example. The Limited has its own lighting cluster. You've got LED fog lights as well. Now this truck has standard suspension. You can get air suspension with the trucks. Now we haven't seen any issues with the air suspension yet on the new Ram 1500s, but a general rule of thumb with air suspension systems is just expect it to potentially fail in the long term. Typically after, 15 to 20 years, most air suspension systems just need to be replaced at that point. But also, at that point, standard shocks typically need to be replaced anyways. And so it's like, it's not like it's any less reliable than standard shocks. It's just more painful because air suspension is a lot more expensive than standard shocks to replace. And so, yeah, I don't really have anything to talk about from that perspective, but we actually need to go to the front again. I just picked like the worst route ever. Bear with me, people. So, from a rear perspective, there hasn't been any issues back here either. Even though they've added, this one doesn't have the cooled seat function, but it has heated seat function. There hasn't been any issues with that. Like, this has a ton of stuff here in the back now. Heated, cooled seats you can get reclining seats, all that kind of stuff, and everything's just been holding up really well on these trucks. And then popping to the front, this is where things could potentially get a little bit interesting. So, I'm gonna start her up. So initially, there were some reported issues with the new digital dash. It's not fully digital, it's got analog gauge clusters on either side and then a little screen in the center. There were some initial issues with that. And then also with the infotainment system. However, all of those were pretty much fixed within the first year of the release of the new generation Ram 1500. And so if you're going to go buy a used truck, or if you're going to buy a new truck, you don't have to really worry about it. But if you're going to buy a used truck, then just make sure that you know, everything works with the infotainment system, then everything works with the screen before you take delivery of the truck. We're going to turn this up because it's pretty hot outside today. Now, Ram updated this screen for the 2022 model year, and there has been some software glitches with this new screen. It hasn't been anything major that would like strand you on the side of the road. It's more like annoyance things, and a lot of people have also been reporting like slower screen times and all that kind of stuff, and so there is probably a few things that they still need to work out on this screen for the 2022 model year when they did the, you know, refresh for the screen, whatever you want to call it. And so again, understand that that might pop up, but again, it's such a small concern. It's like, it's not something that's going to leave you stranded on the side of the road like an engine failing or anything like that. Also, the new camera mirror, that's also been shown to be super reliable as well. Like, there hasn't been any reported issues, but again, that's a new feature, so time will tell on that one. This one doesn't have a camera mirror, by the way, but if you're really worried about it, then just get the traditional mirror with the truck. And also, we've had really good reports on these sunroofs. Sometimes when you put sunroofs on trucks, especially panoramic sunroofs, you can have like leaking issues and all that kind of stuff from towing and everything, and it hasn't happened yet with the Ram trucks. There have been some reported issues with like Ford, for example. Trust me, we'll talk about that in another video. But yeah, Ram's been holding up really well from a roof perspective as well, which is, yeah, just super impressive, if you ask me. And with that being said, we're just gonna take this out on a short little drive, basically, so I can kind of talk about how this powertrain performs and all that, and then we'll kind of, yeah, just give my closing thoughts. So we're starting off here in this Ram 1500 Laramie to kind of close things off for today's video. Another thing, dial shifter, that's been holding up really well. But again, Ram's had the dial shifter in their trucks since like 2013. And so they've had quite a bit of time to figure out some issues with these trucks for the 5th generation. And that love has not necessarily been shared to the 4th generation that is still built, as in the Classic Edition. Like I said, I need to make a dedicated video with the Classic Edition because it'll be painful for some of you. That's all I gotta say. Anyways, you know, setting off here with the Ram truck, the reason I'm doing this test drive portion in this video is just to basically tell you guys how, you know, this powertrain is actually going to perform in real world circumstances. And, you know, I typically try to, you know, obviously focus on the powertrain to go for with the truck. And I think this is the powertrain to go for with the Ram truck. So first off, it's really quiet, actually. Like, when you're just idling, in a regular Ram truck, unless you get like a GT package or something, you don't really hear anything. Just very quiet. Transmission super smooth with the gear shifts. This 8-speed's just amazing. Suspension's really compliant, and it's just a really comfortable driving experience overall with the truck. So it's definitely a big plus. And then on top of that, right, and I don't have the AC on, I'm like, why is the air still blowing hot? On top of that, again, like I said, cabinet insulation's great. The e-torque gives you just like a pretty brutal punch off the line. Now, I'm at like 4,500 feet elevation, and this truck still feels like it has good power at this elevation. You guys know I review a bunch of trucks, and like the Chevy Silverado with the 5.3 liter V8 doesn't feel great at this elevation, but this has just enough power and it has the right axle ratio to where it punches, definitely punches, and it feels great. That is for sure. Just listen to that. And again, you can just put so many miles on this engine. Listen to that sound. And it'll just keep running. I am going to be doing a video on my stepdad's truck in the near future, because I actually sold him a Ram truck when I still worked at the Ram dealership. And I don't know how, he's probably got a ton of miles on his truck, but he tows with it all the time. Like during the summer, he's towing like on a weekly basis, a really big trailer. It's pretty much maxing out the truck. And so I think it'd be interesting to hear his kind of experience with the ownership of that truck. It's a 2017 Bighorn. But yeah, to close things off with this video, there's not really anything that you have to worry about. And again, you know, obviously Ram being part of like the kind of like Chrysler brand, right, doesn't have like necessarily the best reputation because of past product, but in the current setup, it's actually really solid. This is one of the few new trucks out there that you can just buy and put tons of miles on and not have to worry about anything. That can't be said for the new Toyota Tundra, the new Ford F-150, Silverado, the Nissan Titan. That one's actually pretty reliable. We'll make a video about that one too if you guys want. If you guys want me to, let me know if you want me to or not. But yeah, again, it's surprising. And if you guys look at the scores of this truck, it scores really high for a pickup truck. And so, you know, for a full-size pickup truck compared to other full-size pickup trucks. So yeah, if you're looking for a reliable, naturally aspirated V8 American pickup truck, Ram right now is actually the way to go. That's gonna sum things up for our video on this Ram 1500 Laramie. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Dodge Ram in Provo for giving me some time with this truck. I really appreciate it. Check out their website in the description down below. I'll see you guys.